you've done a great job explaining the upside. And I think a lot of consultants and developers also have to wrestle with the downside. The first is the idea that it costs more. Does it cost more? And if so, how much?
There is, compared to a building with no greenery, yes, it does cost more, right? But I think if it's done in a sensitive manner, right, in a manner that takes into consideration the needs and the user groups, the benefits more than outweigh the cost, right? But as you are trying to imply, it's not always the case. A lot of times it's not done well, right? And where it fails, it can fail at multiple points, and therein lies the problem.
How do we measure the trade-offs in cost? Because very often a project brings greenery that benefits the neighborhood, right, or benefits the city, right? How do we assess this? Because it's one party spends the money and another party benefits.
Right. There are a few stakeholders always multiple stakeholders involved in this development, right? So take the example of developing a park. There's always this same question: why do we spend money developing parks? What is the justification, right? An example that is close to us is Bishan Park, something we have done as one of our first projects in Singapore. How do you justify the money of tearing the entire canal out and making it into a natural river, right? And really, studies has been done post-construction, right? Measuring health outcomes, right? Measuring, getting people's feedback about how they feel, how often they use the park, what's the number of visitors, right? The number of people exercising. These are all anecdotal evidence, right? That having this kind of green solutions, right, does have a benefit to the users. In the case of Skyrise Greenery, you can measure the outcomes by looking at the biodiversity and how it improve the moods of the people, right? Because it is a senior citizen facility, right? The health outcomes can be quite drastic.
But both projects that you mentioned are publicly funded, right? I mean, there is therein a direct relationship between the spending of the money and the beneficiary. So public money for public good, right?
Right.
Do you think, provocation, do you think that public money should subsidize greenery in private developments where it benefits the city?
Wow, that is a provocative question. I think they have both their individual roles, right? I don't actually. Let me take a firm stand on this. I don't believe that public money should be used to subsidize private developments. I believe private developments have their own justifications to why they should incorporate greenery, and it's obvious, right? There is financial benefits to incorporating greenery within developments. It is clear. That's why all developers are doing it, right? That's why when you open the paper and you look at a condo development, the first thing they sell is the greenery, the pool area, the beautiful landscape. That is obvious. So I think they are complementary. They both play their roles.
Right. But just to push that point a little further, I mean, a lot of the greenery that we see in private developments is designed purely from a biophilic standpoint, meaning, it's meant to benefit the occupants or the users of that space, either as an amenity or as an experience of proximity to nature. But if you're going to shift to a biocentric view of the city, right? If you're beginning to argue that the project needs to participate in the creation of habitats or ecosystem services, then that's not in the developer's interest, not in the direct developer's interest. That's in the interest of the city, right? So how do we transition from biophilic thinking, which is, which has a direct cause effect on the occupants or the investor, to one in which the city benefits?
Right. Actually, we have been involved in quite a few projects where there
Mm,
has been close collaboration between private developers and public agencies, right?
mm,
Where private agencies set the framework for design and
mm,
provide guidelines, right? And the private developers take this and work with the agencies to make sure there's full integration, whether it be it stormwater or
mm,
visual integration or using the same plant palette so that nature can move seamlessly from private to public.
mm,
Uh, and this is really happening because it's a win-win situation on both sides. It's not like I don't do this because it doesn't benefit me.
mm,
Actually, increasingly, the partnership is seen as a mutually beneficial. And
mm,
I see that in many of the projects where they work with each other to achieve a common outcome.
mm,
We just have to do more of it, right? And we
mm.
have to go deeper, right? And be more extensive with what we do.
You are, of course, referring to projects in Singapore where there is this
Yes.
kind of very explicit collaboration between private developers and public agencies. Do you think that this lesson translates to other parts of Asia or other parts of the world?
Not always,
Mm,
right? There are parts of the world that's really doing this. They're pushing the boundaries, right? But there are parts of the world there's no
mm,
communication, there's no
mm,
collaboration, right? And the problems are multidimensional and complex, right?
mm,
It's got to do with politics, it's got to do with funding, it's got to do with time, right? It's
mm.
to do with stakeholders.